All right, there's a big debate and always a big question. Do I use round bend treble hooks or extra wide gap hook treble hooks? They are two totally different animals, in my opinion. There is definitely a difference. There is not a steadfast rule of I'm going to use one or the other all of the time. That is, I've gone over this in the past, but it's something that continues to come up. And so we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about round bend treble hooks. Extra. Here we go. Here's a round bend treble hook. I'm gonna go ahead and stick it up against this white, so you can see it very good there. And then we're gonna get a extra wide gap. This is my treble hook box that I use on tour. All Gamakatsu stuff. That's just what I've always used. And then you see that's got the extra wide gap. That hook point comes back in, so it has a much bigger bite. The round bends, these have more holding power. These have more bite. I'll explain that here in a few minutes. But those are the two major differences in the two basic styles of hook. Most treble hooks, these are like tried and true. This is like the original, what's come in most every hard bait, top water, jerk bait, all that kind of stuff is a round bend. The round bend treble hooks are just kind of the gold standard, if you will. And as you can see, this is just the regular Gamakatsu. There's some hybrid type hooks now. We got the Gamakatsu G Finesse, and they have kind of a hybrid bend. It's not a true EWG bend, but it's not a round bend. It's kind of in between. And this hook is actually made with a different material. Plus it has that nano coating similar to like Teflon. This is kind of a different animal. I'll get to that here in just a minute, but let me show you the big difference between these two treble hooks. And I can explain it on the side. So if you are hooking a fish in the mouth and that fish gets hooked just like that, you can see that the hook point is gonna go even. So let's say you snag it and that hook point is gonna be digging in, going that way. So you've got a limited amount of depth that you're gonna have. But once that fish is on there, once that piece of meat is on there like that, that hook point, since it's rolled back, you're gonna have a good amount of what I call holding power, because that hook point is turned in a little bit. As opposed to the round bend. Now let's get back to this original hooking position. Let's put the round bend at the same angle. Roughly, there we go. That round bend is at the same angle. Let me get it lined up for you. The bite is going to be deeper. It's gonna snag more meat, so to speak. And then once you hook the fish and hopefully get full penetration, as you can see, the hook point is going to be out a little bit further. So you may lose more fish on the round bend, but you're gonna get a better hookup ratio on more fish with the round bend. I'll show you again, side by side. Sorry, couldn't hardly get the EWG out. So the EWG, you can see the hook point is turned back in. So when a fish swipes at this bait, so let's say this simulates a fish's mouth and you're just going to swipe at it, you're not going to get that fish to hook it a lot of times. So I can hit the side of that treble hook and I'm just going to skin hook it right there on the end. So I'm just going to skin hook it to whereas if I hold this round bend treble hook at the same angle, you can see it's got a deeper penetration angle. I can't, so as the fish's face slaps at it, it's going to get hooked more often. So there's two times, I'm going to hook myself over here on the box. There's two times that the round bends are going to be the ones to use. That is with baits that fish slap at, jerk baits, topwater baits, round bends, really, really hard to beat because of the amount of bite that they have. Number 2 is in colder water. Now, I say cold water, that's a relative term. I think that when the water gets colder, the bass's mouths get a little bit harder. Now, I think we've all probably caught fish in that pre-spawn time period where the water's, around 50 degrees, 48 degrees. You catch one on a rattle trap type bait, maybe on a Little John or something like that. And man, you catch that fish and then you get them in, and you have got to get the pliers to get that thing out because their mouths are so tough. It's like pop, 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 pop. All those treble hooks, the barbs popping out. The mouths are so hard. In contrast, you're deep cranking in the summertime and you hook one of those fish, get them up to the boat. If you get them in the boat, a lot of times they fall out, but if they don't fall out, what you end up having is those mouths in the 80 degree water, 80 plus degree water, the treble hooks will just kind of fall right out. So that's because their mouths are just much softer, the baits come out a lot easier. That's when that EWG hook, in my opinion, really shines, is in that warmer water. That warmer water, when it's just the mouths are so soft, you're just going to catch so many more fish because their mouths are soft, and they'll actually get hooked a little bit better. So that's really the big difference between the two treble hooks. Now, I mentioned before the G Finesse, that is a little bit different. I'll just open the package up and show you a little bit of what the difference really is. And so you can see it. So there's the third one right there, and it's a little shorter shank, so to speak, for the size of the treble hook it is. And I mentioned it's a different type of wire. It's a harder wire. So this hook actually weighs less than this hook, of comparable size, either one of these comparable size. It's got a little bit smaller barbs, but that because of that nano coating and because of that stiffness of the hook up rate, like, you can really get good penetration. So that wants me to try to use it. I've experimented with it on jerk baits and topwater baits. Topwater baits, I think it's good to mix maybe one. Like if you have a set of 3 treble hooks, maybe mix this is in one because it's a shorter shank. You can not get hung up as much. But the round bends are still going to get the call for me the majority of the time on topwater baits and jerk baits, because I was mentioned earlier, the fish slap at those baits a lot. You want that hook that's going to get the edge. It's going to bury in. It's going to get more penetration. That's where that comes in handy. This is kind of a nice cross between, but I will warn you on jerk baits, sometimes because that hook is a lighter material, you will affect the action or the sink rate or the float rate, what have you, on your jerk bait. So just be conscious of that if you're putting that G Finesse on jerk baits. Topwater baits really doesn't make much of a difference. You can go, put as big as you want on there. You're not going to affect the float rate because of that lighter material. But then they have good penetration. That outer bend is EWG-esque, so you'll have a good hold ratio. But that's just you just mix those in with all your treble hooks. So that's kind of the 3 different types of treble hooks, when to use one versus the other. If you have any other questions, drop it down there in the comments. That's what I'm here for. So hopefully that helped you guys be able to differentiate when you're going to put an EWG hook versus a round bend treble hook on there. And like I said before, I've been using Gamakatsu basically all of my career before I even had any type of relationship with anybody. Owner makes a good hook, but I mean, for my money, for my career, Gamakatsu's always gotten the call for me, just because of their designs are flawless, they're timeless, and nobody makes a sharper hook point, and that is a huge deal. If you start losing fish on a crankbait or a treble hook type bait, the first thing you want to do is check the points to make sure they're all still sticky sharp. You could have banged it on a rock, you could have bumped it on something. Sometimes fish have really hard mouths, and you'll catch 6 or 8 fish on one bait, and then the hook points get dull because those fishes, the bone on the side of their face is so hard. it just dulls treble hooks. It's pretty wild. So just be conscious of that. Pick the right style, make sure it's sharp, and you will land a high ratio of fish on treble hook baits.